Welcome to the UTP Fall List Preview. My name is Jane Kelly. I'm the Director of Sales and Marketing at UTP. And today, our editors, authors, and marketing staff will come together to share their favorite fall titles publishing from UTP, AVO UTP, and the Rotman UTP publishing imprints. First up, from AVO UTP and publishing on September 15th is A Runner's Journey. This new book tells the story of a Canadian sports legend journey of joy, discovery, and activism. John Stanton, the CEO of The Running Room, calls this book a must-read for anyone considering being an athlete or a community leader. In this clip, author Bruce Kidd explains why he wrote his autobiography.
I wrote this book to recount my adventures in Canadian and international sport. As a young man, I raced all over the world, setting records, winning championships, and garnering extensive media coverage. Canadian press twice named me Canada's Male Athlete of the Year, and both the National Film Board and the CBC made films about me. I turned down athletic scholarships to American universities, determined that I could succeed by staying in Canada. I inspired many other Canadians to believe that they could successfully compete on the world stage. There was another side to my story too. Sport is not only contested on the playing field, but an everyday battle for opportunity and meaning. As much as I love sports, I gradually began to see that it was a rutted, uneven playing field, tilted to disadvantage Blacks, women, LGBTQ, and Indigenous people. I slowly learned to use my privilege as a white, middle-class, straight male to fight for equity and justice so that everyone could enjoy the benefits and rewards of sport that I had. When I was first engaging in equity struggles, I knew very little about the efforts of early activists who fought for a more inclusive, safer sport. In many cases, I had to start from scratch. I wrote this memoir so the next generation can learn from my experiences.
Next up from AVO UTP is Damaged: Childhood Trauma, Adult Illness, and the Need for a Care Revolution. This new book shows how medical treatment should not just be about biology, but also about psychology. Alika Lafontaine, the president-elect of the Canadian Medical Association, calls Damaged a deeply personal narrative of how humanizing relationships between clinicians and patients heals trauma. Here to tell us more about this new book is the acquisitions editor for the title, Natalie Fingerhut.
Hi, my name is Natalie Fingerhut, and I'm one of the acquisitions editors here at the University of Toronto Press. I had the very real privilege last year of working with two of Canada's leading experts on the relationship between childhood trauma and adult illness, Dr. Robert Maunder and Dr. Jonathan Hunter, both highly respected psychiatrists at Mount Sinai Hospital here in Toronto. In their book, Damaged: Childhood Trauma, Adult Illness, and the Need for a Healthcare Revolution, we are witness to a 20-plus year relationship between Dr. Bob and his tormented patient Isaac, who suffers from debilitating stomach problems that stem from a childhood rife with trauma. The link, as Dr. Bob and Dr. John tell us, between childhood trauma and adult illness is expressed in one's ACE scores. An ACE being an adverse childhood experience, such as physical or sexual abuse, neglect, or growing up in a house with mental health problems or substance abuse. The higher your ACE score, the more at risk you are for heart disease, stomach ailments, obesity, cancer, and of course, mental health issues. There are many, many of us out there with very high ACE scores. We are also treated to a rare egoless relationship between the two doctors, and the book weaves back and forth from conversations between Dr. Bob and Isaac to reflection, insight, and wisdom from the doctors. It is a unique presentation that succeeds in hammering home this relationship between trauma experienced in childhood, its impact on health as we grow up, and the immediate need for doctors to start understanding and addressing that relationship to improve patient care. While Damaged is clearly a story for medical practitioners and students in all medical disciplines, it is a story for anyone who is an Isaac themselves or has an Isaac in their lives, which really is most of us. Dr. Bob and Dr. John are passionately advocating for doctors to take the Isaac that is within us and among us seriously, and to ask their patients about their past in a trusting, empathetic, and caring way, and to truly hear them out. At its core, this book is about the power of relationships rooted in kindness. How timely and fortunate we are to have such a book available to us when so many are so traumatized and so desperately in need of being heard and being healed and being treated with compassionate care. Thank you.
Books from the Rotman UTP Publishing imprint provide innovative, research-based solutions for today's managers and entrepreneurs. In this next clip, our marketing manager, Brianna Muir, tells us about 2 new titles publishing from Rotman UTP. But first, we're going to share one of our brand new book trailers for Decoding CEO Speak.
Hi everyone, my name is Brianna Muir, and I'm an Associate Marketing Manager at the University of Toronto Press. And that was a sneak peek at a new book from Rotman UTP called Decoding CEO Speak by Russell Craig and Joel Amranick. The words of business leaders of major companies are important, and people have increasingly become invested in where public figures and CEOs of top brands stand on current issues surrounding social justice and business ethics, especially in the pandemic environment, as numerous inequalities have been exposed between those in positions of power and those who are not. Decoding CEO Speak critiques and decodes the public language used in speeches, press releases, websites, and social media from the CEOs of top companies like Tesla, Uber, BP, for example, in order to decipher truth from fiction and yield valuable insights into a company's policies, priorities, values, and the individual personality of the CEO. Ultimately, Decoding CEO Speak makes a powerful argument that the words of business leaders matter. They not only influence so much of our own behavior, but they also influence what we decide to place value on in our society, making Decoding CEO Speak an incredibly valuable read for those who wish to become a critical observer of corporate accountability. So up next, I'm excited to tell you about a second Rotman UTP title called Balancing Acts, a human systems approach to organizational change by James Conklin, a former consultant and current professor at Concordia University. Balancing Acts asserts that all human groups that work together are functioning as a system, and that when you help a group of people to change, you're performing a balancing act. This book is particularly important for managers, consultants, and organizational leaders who are experiencing workplace challenges when interacting with their team or even a new business client. When introducing change, James Conklin argues that it is essential to regulate your own thoughts and actions to maintain a balance that allows you to fulfill your business commitments with relative ease. Balancing Acts introduces readers to a set of 4 key concepts to practice when working and growing in a business setting. These acts assert that you must balance confrontation with compassion, participation with observation, assertion with inquiry, and planfulness with emergence. Balancing acts will serve as a useful guide for managers and HR teams as they work towards the goal of heading back to the office and need to balance a new set of post-pandemic measures and interruptions while also striving for successful results.
This November, UTP will publish Unsettling the Great White North, Black Canadian History. This new book brings together leading scholars in Canadian Black history to highlight the diverse experiences of persons of African descent within the chronicles of Canada's past. Our editors, Michelle Johnson and Funke Aladajabi, talk about why they did this important new book.
Hello, I'm Michelle Johnson.
And I'm Funke Aladajabi, and we're editors of Unsettling, the Great White North Black Canadian History.
For many years, Funke and I have been discussing the possibility of bringing together the wide variety of scholarship occurring in Black Canadian history so that students and scholars and the general public would have a place where they could find topics ranging from the enslavement of people of African descent in Canada through building Black communities and diasporas, experiences in education, community labor, gender, and Black intellectualism.
We sent out a call to scholars across Canada, and we were very pleased with the response. The volume that has emerged is one that features well-established and new voices, scholars from a variety of fields, but who are focused on Black Canadian historical experiences. They have featured stories of resilience and resistance to the barriers and forces of oppression that Black Canadians have faced.
Unsettling the Great White North will explode any myth about Canada's claims of racial tolerance and social inclusion. It presents an opportunity to look deeply at the long presence of people of African descent in Canada, and it invites everyone to examine that history with us.
We can only hope that folks will accept our invitation.
And from our popular graphic novel series, Ethnographic, this November, we will publish The King of Bangkok. This beautifully illustrated graphic novel is the story of one man's journey in contemporary Thailand. Paul Gravitt, editor of Comic Arts and Mangasia, calls it an insightfully written and inventively illustrated book. Here to tell us more about this new book is the author, Claudio Sopranzetti.
Hello, my name is Claudio Sopranzetti and I'm one of the authors of The King of Bangkok, a graphic novel that tells the political history of contemporary Thailand through the lives of some of the people I've been doing research with over the last 10 or 15 years. Now, one question you might have is why three people put together a story about Thailand? Well, this is the result of two issues. On one side, a long history of research, of ethnographic research that I've carried out in the country, following people in their migration from the countryside to the city. And the other one is a frustration, both with the limits of academic writing and its limited audiences, but also a frustration with hearing incredible stories that the contemporary Thai state and its military dictatorship were erasing from view. So in many ways, this is an attempt to bring those stories back in the forward and to allow people both inside and outside Thailand to engage with a different view of a country that many of us travel to, but very often know very little about. So this is the main purpose of this text. It came out in Italian first, and in Thai, it did very well in Thailand, precisely because of his rediscovering a history that everybody have lived, but it's been erased, and we hope will do very well in the English market. Our hope really for this book is that people who are about to travel to Thailand can pick up a graphic novel and read through Thai history, learning something as well as enjoying the read. So we hope you enjoy the book, and thank you for your time.
And before we go, we just want to remind everyone about an AVO UTP title that published in April 2021, The Gatherings, which shows how Indigenous and non-Indigenous people can come together to create meaningful and beautiful relationships. This book has already been reprinted once, and we're very happy to say that it has been shortlisted for a NABA New England Book Award in the nonfiction category. So make sure you pick up your copy today.